Okay, so the first step in using the cell shading technique is to do our underlying sketch, our underdrawing for the painting. So I always like to start out with a nice, even gray tone for the background. So I go up to the top right and select my color picker. I want to move it over and select a nice neutral gray. And then you can just tap on the circle and drag it over to your screen, drop it, and it should fill the whole thing. Oops, went back to gray. Okay, and the reason I do this is because when you're painting and you have a white background, a lot of times it makes all of the colors you're using seem way too dark, when in reality they're not. It's just because they're on this extremely bright background. So when you give it a neutral background, it makes it so that your color estimations are a lot more accurate. So now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and create a new layer. So we're going to select our layers button, hit the plus sign, and create a new layer. And then we're going to set this layer to multiply. So select the little N right there, and then select multiply. It should be under the darken setting. Okay? And then we're going to select our brush. I like using a nice round brush. This one comes with the program. Mine is slightly modified, but either one should work fine. Okay, and then we're going to set the size to right about in the middle, about 25%, and the opacity to about 50%. Okay? And we'll make it just a little bit darker than our background. Now what multiply does, we set the layer to multiply. Basically what it's going to do is multiply everything underneath what I paint by whatever is on top. Okay, so when I draw, it'll just multiply the base color and make it darker. So when you're sketching your background, or when you're sketching your rough sketch, you want to keep it really loose. Okay, so we're just gonna start sketching here, and I think what I'm gonna do is a shaman type character. So the reason we want to keep it so loose is because when we go really tight right off the bat, it can be really hard to get the proportions right and make sure that everything is working correctly. And when we do it loose, it gives us a lot of room to adjust as we draw and see what's working and see what's not. So really, really loose at this point. There's not a lot of detail. It's really sketchy, and that's fine, okay? It doesn't have to look perfect at this point. So just work your way through whatever it is you're planning on drawing. And I will go ahead and put the Photoshop document and the Procreate document for this piece available for you guys so that you can look at it and edit it. And if you just want to try coloring it yourselves without having to draw it, that's fine too. Another option you can do if you just want to skip this step altogether would be to, if maybe you're not very good at drawing on a tablet, you can simply take a drawing you did on paper and scan it in, or take a photograph on your iPad and then just go straight into the painting part, which we'll get to later. Alright, so I got kind of like an eyeball here. I'm thinking of like a kind of like a skull shape. We'll draw, then have his neck come back over here. And another tool that I use a lot is the lasso tool and the selection tool. So by hitting this arrow up here, I can select it, and then I can move it around and resize it how I want. Because right now it's feeling a little bit big, like it's not going to fit on the page very well. So I'll just make it a little bit smaller and then keep drawing. Okay, his neck coming down over here, and I think we're gonna have him have like a big hunched back sort of thing going on with some big robes. And just remember to keep it really loose at this point. Some spikes back there. Alright, so I'm going to hit my lasso tool, okay? And then I'm going to come over here and draw around the place that I want to edit, okay? So once I do that, I close the dot and I can click on my selection tool, and now I only have that selected, okay? So to undo and go back, I'm just going to tap on the screen with 2 fingers, and that will undo that. So I want the front of his mouth to be a little bit bigger and the back of his head to be smaller. I kind of like that backwards triangle sort of shape. So I'm just going to adjust that by holding on the points of each one of these corners and dragging it around to resize it. So I think I like that. That looks good. We're just going to keep slowly working this until we get a rough sketch that we like, that's working for us. Give him some cool pointy shoulders. And let's move him over a little bit, shrink him down. And I think I want him to be holding some sort of staff. So put a staff in his hand over here. Okay. And remember, keep it really rough. You don't need to be going into details, okay? I cannot stress that enough. Just keep it loose. We'll get to the details in the fine art later. If it's looking sloppy, that's okay. That's good. And if you need to make your brush even bigger, that's totally fine, okay? Make it as big as you need to keep yourself from going too detailed in the beginning. The longer you can keep it in this loose stage, the better your final drawing will be. Okay. Put like some sort of necklace here. And let's have this arm coming over and holding the staff as well. Okay. And I'm thinking that arm looks alright. And his head, though, still isn't quite working for me, so I'm just going to resize it again a little bit. Selecting the lasso tool, and then hitting the selection button. Resizing that how I want it. That looks good. Once again, 2 fingers tapped on the screen to undo. Okay, so for the first round of the undersketch, that looks about good. In the next video, we'll go on to refining it a little bit more.